one. All right, all right. Here we go. We are back. It's the original Friday Night Vibe. I'm T Cash. Thank you, everybody who's supported us thus far. This is the original Friday Night Vibe, where we talk about hip hop, health, and healing from the Northern California perspective. You can look at what I'm talking about logged on right now across social media platforms, or you can listen to what I'm talking about Friday, 89.5 FM, KPOO, the soul of San Francisco. Shout out KBZ for Sheezy and Rap Snacks Radio, or you can tune in to kpoo.com and listen there. So you got some options. That is just how we start these segments. Let's get straight into it, because that is what we came to do. Okay. All right. Well, this segment is all about benefits from leaving the Bay Area to go on tour. You know what I mean? So it's not just we'll get up and go and I'm going to tell you how cool it is once you're up out of here. You know what I mean? It's not that. It is, what can you gain from leaving the Bay Area, taking your music, your product on the road on tour? How does that go? What can you gain by that? I wrote these down. That's why I looked down, and I'm not going to go on forever and ever. But what I do want to do is name them and unpack them. And then once we kind of conclude, try to give you like the big point that I'm trying to make. Because if I do it that way and it's like backwards and it's kind of weird and you don't really get what I'm trying to say. All right. So little disclaimer, back in the Stone Age, when I started to tour, there were things called record stores. You know what I'm saying? There were things called record stores. There were also things called radio stations who only played music on a radio, meaning there was no internet. There was no like podcast, YouTube, social media component. It was just all audio. And in this all audio world, people who served as tour managers or people helping to, book a tour or build out a tour, they would do some research. They would call radio stations. They would contact these radio stations and record stores in different cities to get an idea of how well people bought your record in a city, like an actual record or a CD or a cassette, in certain cities, and or if you had some type of buzz on the radio, college radio, commercial radio, didn't matter, independent radio, right? We all know about that. But the takeaway, the reason why I bring that up is that doesn't happen anymore, but it's fundamental that you understand today's present version of that. If you are a Bay Area artist looking to branch out and move forward and go on a tour, the simplest way you can do this, if you're already online, which most of us, I'm online, we're all online. The simplest way you can do this is to create a simple online poll or a form, Google form. That's easy. And send out a 5-question questionnaire to the online atmosphere to gauge who, when, where, and when. Again, I don't know. That makes sense. But let me break it down a little bit more, and then we'll get into these benefits. But this is important. If you are getting ready to go out and do your thing on the road because you got that one song that's popping out here in the Bay Area, if you're ready to do that, you got to know where to go. And if not, you're just wasting your time, right? You don't want to just get in the car, book a flight, book a ticket to go somewhere and get out and just hope it goes okay. No, you don't want to do that. You want to do like how we did in the Stone Age, and even how we still do now, except not with Stone Age resources. You want to see who wants to see you, where they are, why they want to see you, and how much would they pay. That's actually very, very important, and I'll get into that. On this questionnaire, on this feeler form, you really want to get that. Email address, what city, what state, what is their favorite track, and would they pay to see you perform? And if so, how much would they pay? Doesn't mean that that's how much you charge, but you want to gauge that. Once you have that information, look at the overall glaring trend. If 90% of the answers come back just in California, start there. Or 90% comes back, well, let's be more fair. 60% or more, 70%. 70% of the feedback that you get from this online poll comes back from the South, Southern regions, the Southland, Southern California, the Southwest, East Coast. That's point your finger on that and say, I want to go there. Now, once you've gotten there, here are some benefits that you could receive if you leave the Bay Area to go on tour. All right, here we go. Number one, you get, and I wrote these down so people are like, why is he looking away from the camera? So I want to make sure I read these right. You know what I'm saying? All right, here we go. Number one, you get to experience, I can't even read what I wrote. What the hell's going on? You get to experience everyday life outside of Northern California and how best to incorporate that into your music here. And here's an example of that I went through, but I won't get into my details, but this is the takeaway. It doesn't matter who goes through it. All right. The example is this. Let's say you know where to go. You got that number one song. It's trending everywhere, man. You got it in every online. It's going all the way up. Your views are popping. Streams are good. You might have had some placement somewhere. You know what I mean? On a just a fluke, and it's just on fire right now. And then you get your feedback, and the feedback says, come to Arizona. You get to Arizona, and people who come to your show, but that's not everybody in Arizona, right? And when you get out the car or step off the plane and you go into these smoke shops and you know, clothing stores or wherever you went to show your face outside of the concert, you want to soak up what that atmosphere is like. And do you see that one song really going the distance and being around long term? Do you need to make another track that's a little more reflective of what you experienced, that might help pull in a little bit more of an audience? You know, maybe not, but you'll never know that to the best of your ability just sitting online and staying where you are, AKA the Bay Area. All right. And sometimes we don't want to hear that. We know, and I'm guilty as charged. We can, if you're a Bay Area baby, you know for a fact, Bay Area baby, Sacramento baby, Northern California babies, we do not want to hear that, but that is the truth. We do got to get up and leave to get a real understanding of how our music shows up in the everyday lives of people who are there from where they're from. You know what I mean? So that is the first benefit. Number two, you get to see how well you and your music shows up offline. Slightly different from the first benefit, but let me explain. Are you a jerk? Are you cool? Are you the homie? All right. Well, let's say you made it to where you're going. You made it to Seattle, Washington. Okay. Billings, Montana. You went to where you went to perform. And at the merchandise table, you were the homie. You were personable, approachable. Your meet and greet game is on point. Or you're a jerk, right? It's kind of easy to imagine which one lasts longer. Which one gets you the follow-up email 6 months later saying, hey, we got something in a few more months. We want to bring you back. Excuse me. Maybe there were other artists on the same bill as you. And because you were the homie and not a jerk, because you showed up offline and your music as well showed up offline in a positive manner, that group wants you to continue on after this show run is over with because they got something else lined up. I'm kind of leading into the next benefit, but the idea is, are you able to maximize and really benefit from showing up offline outside of the Bay Area, going on a tour? That, let me be honest with you, it's not for everybody. They cannot do it. I wish I had a better answer, but no. It doesn't always work like that. So that is the main point about that. Showing up offline in these other areas, you got to gauge that. You got to gauge that the way you got to be honest about that. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. Because if you're honest about it, if you know, like, I'm not really vibing with these people, they're not vibing with me, don't waste your time the second time around. in the same form and fashion, or even going out there, let alone going out there in the same form and fashion. All right. All right. Next one, and this is very, very important. And then I think we'll be done with it. We got a few, but I'll cut it short. I don't want to be too long with these, but this is important. The next one is you get to see who on your team is most compatible with your goals long term. Goodness. So the idea is who maneuvers with you smoothly. You know what I mean? Who gets off the plane and into the car and steps out into wherever you're going and is just lockstep with you, repping the brand. Always the alley-oop guy, always the alley-oop girl, the alley-oop person, repping you, plugging the brand, lockstep. Who is that person? That is the person that you probably want to take with you now and next time and the time after that. Now, let's take this a step further, you guys. Who behaves like a liability? Who was told there's no smoking inside of this establishment, but just kept smoking? Who seems to just only promote the music to the females that they see? Who seems to want to be a little bit more vocal if you have the opportunity to do a media run along with your tour when people start talking about you? And I'm going to speak from example here, on both sides of that coin. And I hope that I don't sound arrogant. I want to sound confident. When I went out on the road with Boots Riley and the Coup as a hype man, Boots Riley and Pam the Funkstress, God bless her soul. When I went out on the road with them as a hype man, I was the hype man, and that's it. Okay? It's about Boots. It's about Pam. And then, fortunately, out of humility and respect, it's about me. The same thing with the Black Panther of hip hop, Paris. The exact same thing, right? So people trying to take the limelight, behave like a liability, not congeal, not mesh well with the goal. The benefit of leaving the Bay Area to go on tour is you get to see who that really is, right? And then you get to make decisions. You get to decide accordingly what happens after that, because you don't want to necessarily waste your time. And that in itself can be a whole nother segment, but I just want to put that out there because that leads us into second to last one. All right, here we go. You get to establish non-hip hop. Yeah, right. If there's any such thing. Non-hip hop alternatives and resources. Well, let me say it like this. You get to establish non-hip hop networks and alternative options for living, just in case Bay Area life starts to fall apart for you. What's an example of that? Here's an example. I went on tour, right? Not me. This is an example. I went on tour and I went to Austin, Texas, and I loved it there. And every time I go there, I love it. I love the atmosphere. I love the people. I love the food. We had a day off and I got up and I went to a really dope farmer's market. And I talked to this one guy who's into, organic freaking bananas like me. And man, we had and he gave me his business card and I keep up with him online and his Instagram page. And now every time I come to Austin, we connect and, he's not a weirdo, or she's not a weirdo, or they're not a weirdo. And they invited me to, they knew that I would be in town for a panel discussion, and they hit me up and said, after the discussion, I wanted you to come over to the house for, my daughter's graduation party, right? Well, what the hell does that have to do with Bay Area hip hop, with that one song that got you on the road? What does that have to do with that? Absolutely nothing. And that is the point, meaning you expand your horizons. I almost knocked something down. My bad. You expand your horizons and you start to transcend that original environment that you were in. And that's very important because unless you live in a bubble, and even if you actually are solely supporting yourself with music, you might need other sources of income to really make this happen. And that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. No matter what people might gaslight other people into believing, if you have a day job and music is just not working out, but that same hypothetical person that you met in this hypothetical Austin, Texas, has a connect for you that is compatible with the day job you have now, and it's more feasible and it makes more sense for you to go there and uproot and reroute and keep it pushing and live your life. Hey, what's wrong with that? Absolutely nothing. That is another benefit of leaving the Bay Area to go on tour, is you get to establish alternative networks and options and resources just in case the Bay is not it. And let me tell you, even though some of us know this, we don't want to say this, I will be the one to say it. There are a lot of people when you start to travel that are, you know how like we have a lot of transplants here? They're transplants from the Bay Area, because on a lot of levels, we don't say this, but we know this. On a lot of levels, the Bay Area is just not it anymore to a lot of people. And there's ways to embrace that. And there are ways to just kind of stumble across that and not really do anything like that to the best of your ability if you go on tour, right? That's not the main point, though. All of this segment, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, yes, it has a lot to do with you as an artist, a Bay Area hip hop artist. And yes, it has a lot to do with how to maximize your music, your brand by going on tour and what to do and how to do it. And there's my anecdotal advice of like the benefits. But the main thing that I think everybody can agree on, whether you rap or not, you're in the Bay Area watching this or listening to this or not, is that you get to expand your sense of self and culture by leaving the Bay Area and going on tour. And you cannot unlive that ever. That's a benefit. That's a benefit. That's a benefit. Let me explain. And I will speak from example. Australia, New Zealand, Europe, the UK, Canada, almost all 50 states. I am so blessed and so fortunate to have done that with and without hip hop. But the idea is with hip hop primarily, I was able to expand my overall horizons and viewpoints and experiences so that when I did return to the Bay Area, I understood that this is where I am. It doesn't have to be who I am. And if it is, I choose accordingly. I make the rules and nobody else can tell me any different, especially somebody who's never been outside of the radius, not because they're bad or they're weak or they don't deserve to go. It's just because they haven't seen what I've seen and they haven't lived what I've lived now that I've done it. You know what I mean? And that's something that some people may not tell you, but the reason why I believe it's important to tell you is because this is more conducive to the other points of the original Friday Night Vibe. Hip hop healing and health are two things that all Bay Area hip hop artists deserve. All Northern California hip hop artists deserve, because life outside of the studio and offline can be really, really tough. And if you have the opportunity to just get up and go and breathe in the air of another there, you are very fortunate. So please, please, please take advantage of it. I hope this was helpful. We will be back sooner than later. One more time. This is the original Friday Night Vibe. I'm T Cash. Hip hop, health, healing from the Northern California perspective. You might be listening to this online at kpoo.com, or you might be right there in the city of San Francisco. The soul of San Francisco, 89.5 FM, KPOO. Thank you, Rap Snacks Radio. Thank you, KBZ. Thank you, everybody from KPOO for embracing me and holding it down with me along this road. And I pinky swear I will be back in a minute with more content, with something else to think about. Until next time, later.